this is Lee back once again for another video, and it's been a while and thought I'd try out a new look. You see, I'm feeling very shimmery because there's a new digital video out there, not on disc but on a streaming video, Shimmer 80. And as I was watching it, I was struck by the bright, ravey colors. I felt like I was, tasting the rainbow of psychedelic neon day glow, night glow, glow in the dark, magical goodiness. And some of it, you see these trends sometimes in wrestling, and I'm sure the Shimmer locker room is a place where ideas are exchanged. At one time, it seemed like so many wrestlers were getting a flaming bright red hair. Well, now it seems like that I call this the Kool-Aid hair. With the multiple colors, you see this. Asuka has brought this to NXT, and you see many of these women wrestlers with this long hair, and part of it will be kind of a purple, red, green, multiple colors all together. Lufisto has it, even Jessica Havoc. So be prepared for some bright colors this time as you stream your WWN live video. So anyway, just a little. So now I just wanted to make some comments, as I often do on these Shimmer matches. So really, this time you had, Dallas, Texas as the venue for this 2016, Shimmer event, a single show. Of course, I was not in attendance live, nor did I stream it live. Unfortunately, my internet connection was very poor, so I had to watch it later when I had better bandwidth and availability. But anyway, it was provided by the WWN Live, and of course they provide, many other, streaming video shows. Of course, the other iPPVs. This was an iPPV, of course. The previous volume 53, 62, 71, and now, of course, the previous digital versatile discs of volume 1 through 25 are available as streaming video. So anyway, the location was Eddie Dean's Ranch, kind of this darkened, arena, much smaller in appearance than the one featured in volume 53. I think volume 53 is still my favorite of the iPay-per-view shows. It just has the biggest, most grand feel to it. Of course, it was the first. This is, certainly in keeping with the Shimmer tradition of a dark, arena, focused mostly on the in-ring action. And some of the outfits, more focused towards the glowy, shimmery style. So you saw new costumes all around. So anyway, the announcer for the show was a Joanna Rose. I'm not sure who she is, but she did a fine job. And of course, you had these different matches. It reminded me very much of the Chick Fight tournament they had on the previous iPay-per-view volume 71, now available on digital versatile disc. Of course, I'm not being paid at all by any of the companies I'm mentioning. But anyway, so you had basically a series of matches, one-on-one matches. And, the winners of these different singles matches would go on to the round 2, of the tournament this time. And then they would pair off. And finally, the last match would be a three-way match. And, of course, this was all hyped in advance on the website and forums, little video packages. And the idea was that a new belt had been created, a new shiny belt called the Heart of Shimmer Championship. Now, previously, Shimmer, of course, had established itself as an independent wrestling company with all-women performers, and then had a championship belt, of course, Sarah Del Rey being the first champion, and then they introduced, the tag team champion belts, and of course, you had, Ashley Lane and Nevaeh, becoming the first, tag team champions, and finally, the Heart of Shimmer Championship, which I guess, I presume that this will serve as kind of a belt to vie for on these iPay-per-views. The iPay-per-views are almost like they're disconnected from the rest of the continuity of Shimmer. You have people coming in from outside, other promotions get mentioned. It's kind of a chance for Shimmer to gain, outside exposure. Dave Prazak does live commentary, which he has done in recent volumes, but it was not something that was typically done. Usually the commentary was added later. But anyway, it's just kind of a unique thing. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this Heart of Shimmer championship belt. Will this be defended on the regular show? So they'll have two belts. Will it, be considered less prestigious than the regular championship, or what? So it'll be kind of interesting to see. If they just keep it as an iPPV belt, I suppose it'll just be this once a year kind of thing. Of course, the other promotion, Shine, which features many of the same female wrestlers, has its own championship. And it's almost strictly an iPay-per-view based promotion. So it'll be interesting to see what Shimmer does with this, because of course they can do their own thing now. They don't have to be exactly like any other promotion. So anyway, a lot of preliminaries to get out of the way. You had, of course, the ring had these logos on it for the WWN Live. Kind of reminds me of the WCW, little atom logo. But moving on, I'll start talking about the matches, because certainly you want to know about the matches, don't you? So currently this show, as of this video, is only available as video on demand. Of course, the live event, streamed, in April. But the other shows are coming up later in the year, of course, and there was quite a bit of a delay, it seemed, in the normal Shimmer schedule. Of course, they've had so many wrestlers leave the promotion, and of course, Shimmer has always been a gathering place for independent wrestlers. These women who, they wrestle these small venues, or they come from other countries where they normally would get almost no exposure to North American, or especially American, United States audiences. And so, it's expected these women will not be there forever. They'll just come and wrestle for a few nights, and then maybe they're gone for good. But of course, it has its own dedicated fan base, of people. There's probably like the same 50 fans there every show, just about, without fail. About 250. So the first match on this Shimmer Volume 80 was Cheerleader Melissa. It was kind of strange to see her as the very first, wrestler. Of course, she's treated as this heel now in the show, coming out with her, sparkly gown. It almost kind of reminded me of something Manami Toyota, the great Joshi legend, has been wearing recently. Kind of the roughly sparkly, kind of statuesque outfit. Of course, but anyway, much meaner and nastier than Toyota ever was. But she comes out, and of course, her opponent is Leva Bates. Is no stranger to the beginning of the show. These lower card matches, as they call them. She came out dressed as a Kingdom Hearts, kind of in her usual cosplaying way. Comes out as a video game, character. This, Kingdom Hearts, person. I'm not familiar with the Disney, role-playing game, but anyway, she comes out. She does all these kind of dance moves, these choreographed, practiced moves. Kind of unusual, kind of reminds me of, seeing, Ron the Truth Killings coming out and busting some moves before it goes into the wrestling match, and thinking like, yeah, he's a pretty good dancer, not bad. But anyway, the wrestling match was alright. Cheerleader Melissa does what she did, being kind of a bully, and, it started off with some dialogue, and there was some guy in the audience who didn't really appreciate it, saying like, the fans, they're the Heart of Shimmer. And this guy was, in the audience, he was like yelling, boring, boring. And I think it was hard to hear all of the dialogue. It'll be interesting to see in the digital virtual disc when it finally comes out, without the commentary, because Dave Prazak and I think Amber Gardner were talking away. You couldn't quite hear the fan interaction with the wrestlers, but I think Leva Bates' retort to the boring guy was, the people behind him, they're the Heart of Shimmer. It was just kind of funny. But of course, it was sort of like, okay, the match is about to begin. Just kidding, let's have a little dialogue. So, I could understand him, there. But it was sort of like in Volume 53, the audience, they're just like, we want wrestling, when they were doing all these dialogue scenes. But of course, the mainstream wrestling product does that as well. The 3-hour Raw and TNA does it as well. They come out, people come out to the ring and they talk for like 20 minutes. You're like, when's the match going to begin? When's the action going to begin? If you're going to do these dialogue segments, they have to feed into the show. So I didn't think it was bad, but it was just kind of like, okay, we're, mentioning Heart of Shimmer all the time. Did they really do a good job of selling the belt? I'm not sure. For people who just showed up to the show, I don't know. But we'll see. They'll have to use this title for something because it just, appeared for the first time. Just another gold belt, and you give it to whoever wins this tournament. So anyway, wouldn't say this was a bad match. It wasn't a bad match to start off with. Of course, Melissa, has her, reputation as one of the greats, and really the only, wrestler who's been through all I think, but possibly one show. I think she's always been there since the beginning, since 2005. Even Mercedes Martinez hasn't been there as long. So anyway, I don't know if she's winding down her career, possibly, but getting herself eliminated, because Leva Bates, is able to pull things off, and of course Melissa, kind of humiliated. Just kidding. Actually, it was kind of a foregone conclusion that Leva Bates would be defeated. She almost always loses. She comes in with her character. Maybe that's the secret character arc we're going to see, is that finally Leva Bates gets to be herself, and she finds she's a strong person and can win, rather than trying to be these other characters, trying to become, these video game, characters, superheroes, comic book, characters, and she can't quite do it because she doesn't really have superpowers. She's only immortal, not immortal, and she gets beaten by people who take the wrestling more serious than the gimmick. But Melissa, of course, has the heart of a champion. She's been, two-time Shimmer champion, even though, her title reigns were rather short. Of course, she's always been talented, and I've always appreciated what she can do, even though sometimes I feel like her character is not developed as it should be. But she nevertheless is talented and hardworking, and does what she does. So I think Leva Bates, has gotten much better over the years, and of course I think she's gained, some fans just because they've seen her on television in NXT as Blue Pants, so automatically, when you're on television, people like you a little bit better. But I do think she has improved, and so it was a decent match. It wasn't incredibly great, but it wasn't a bad one. It made me want to keep watching, so I think they did that well. So the evil cheerleader Melissa continues on, with her rampage, violence, her destruction. So there you go. She has been humiliated in the past, but she's happy. With the next match, you have Cherry Bomb back from her collarbone injury, with her black outfit, wearing her tag team belt. Finally, she can defend it. Of course, she doesn't defend it here, but, before she had the belt, even though she was injured, you'd think she would have given it up. That's how usually it works, but, Kimberly kept the other tag belt and kind of defended it by herself, I suppose. Anyway, Cherry Bomb, not a bad wrestler at all. She comes out and she does all her kind of goofy faces. I think, the Shimmer forums, they were talking about her, goofy faces. There's something that has appeared in recent volumes of Shimmer. It seems like they've specifically gotten cameramen to focus on the faces of the wrestlers. They zoom right in, and they focus on the face for, several seconds. Whereas in the past, it was rare that you got these kind of shots, these dead on. And it's kind of weird sometimes because, it's like seeing live theater, actors will make big, exaggerated expressions because the people in the back have to be able to see it. So it's not normal. It's over the top, very demonstrative, very almost cartoonish. And of course, people have said just like Taylor Hendricks and Cherry Bomb have these, large eyes and these very expressive, faces. Just kind of, it's hard to not notice their expressions. But of course, she makes these, exaggerated faces, and the camera zooms right in on her. So it's just a little strange. Of course, in the live show, you wouldn't see that, obviously. But the home viewing audience gets to see, her face that way. But anyway, I think Cherry Bomb, did a good job. She made, a comeback. It wasn't a very long, strenuous match, but there were some big moves. There was a couple of times where, she's out there, and let's see, her opponent, Cherry Bomb, with her great expressive face, against Candice LeRae. Now, of course, Candice LeRae, I've always appreciated her. I think at first I thought, well, she and Joey Ryan, they're kind of these, uncouth, kind of, dirty fighters. But, she's a pretty face. But actually, she is a very, I think, a good worker as a wrestler. Very unsuspecting. and I think the fans appreciate her. So anyway, she's out there, and of course in the previous, iPPV, she got, her nose bloodied, and she kind of, got eliminated, rather early despite her, prowess and reputation. But this time, as she triumphs and destroyed Cherry Bomb. Now, there was, I think, a kind of a wasted opportunity, and there's a bit of a spoiler here. Of course, the whole thing's a spoiler. Is that there was this backstage segment in the previous tournament. It was about, the Kimber Bombs, and it was like, I wonder what's going to happen if one of us, advances on and the other one advances on. We'll have to fight each other. What will we do? This would have been a great opportunity to have the two of them against one another. But, if it just, it doesn't happen, it's kind of a tease. Why not go that route? Figure out what you're going to do. Do something daring. Take a risk. Of course, wrestling is all about taking risks. But maybe they just decided, nah, let's not. So, too bad. Oh well. But anyway, of course, that's a classic thing, you get the tag team and then you break them up. And it, sometimes it kills the momentum. But anyway, Kimber Lee, great wrestler. Cherry Bomb, I don't like her as much, but she certainly is competent. So Candice LeRae and Cherry Bomb. But Candice, triumphs, and certainly the fans are on her side, and of course Cherry Bomb threw kind of a tantrum afterwards. She doesn't do as much of the high-pitched, shrieking that she was doing when she was recovering from her injury, and just a kind of a backstage presence, the valet that everyone hates, because she's really annoying. Now she was, she did kind of a big move, and then she kind of got beaten by kind of a sneaky, pin at the end there. But she just kind of threw a fit. And later on, you see her interfere, actually, to help Kimber Lee in her match. And it kind of made sense. So she was like, I'm just going to screw somebody over because I feel like I got screwed over. So just lashing out in anger, just a bad person. Of course, they portray the Kimber Bombs as kind of these airheads, these dunces, these goofballs. But really, they're quite sneaky. Not as sneaky as the Canadian Ninjas, but there you go. They're the tag team champions. Always these heel teams. Not always, but very often, the Ninjas, and of course, Tomoka and Daisy Hayes, going back several volumes there. So, continuing on, so, an okay match, nothing super amazing so far, but nothing terrible either. So, anyway, next we have Nicole Savoy. And of course, she's the one to watch. I thought she was kind of the standout, newcomer from the Volume 71, iPPV, Chick Fight Tournament. I really thought she did a great job. And of course, it was Kaylee Ray's, triumphant, show. But Nicole Savoy, nevertheless, very impressive. I really like her. So she went against Lufisto, who I think, she had a very different kind of outfit, kind of almost like a jumpsuit type dress or something. It was, I don't know how to describe it, bright red and so forth. Of course, she comes out as this lone Al Ronan. She has the, the mask over her face, kind of the outlaw face mask. She would fit in perfectly as a creative wrestler in the WWE 2K games because just about everybody has, that, hack character with the, a bandana around the face, and kind of the ninja-esque, and the tattoos. But anyway, Lufisto, I'm not sure, not all of her matches are, amazing, but she does well with what she has. So even if it's a shorter match, which I felt like this was, it just felt short. She nevertheless, put out a lot of powerful moves. She didn't do a lot of comedy. It was just kind of straight to business. Not bad by any means, but I felt as if, she and Nicole Savoy, very different types of wrestlers. And of course, Nicole Savoy, the high flyer, but here, Lufisto, more of a brawler, more of a power move, kind of gal. And the two of them going head to head, it was just kind of interesting. But it seemed like, Lufisto just kind of beat her up, most of the match. And then Nicole Savoy, reversed some moves and kind of just, somehow beat her with a submission hold, I believe it was. So it's kind of interesting how that same spot with a kind of an arm bar type move was repeated a little later on. But, of course I really like both these wrestlers, so I think I kind of forgave the shortcomings of it. just because of that. But, it was, I think the show was picking up at this point. I wasn't on the edge of my seat, but I certainly enjoyed it. So paid your, $10 to see it live, or the $15 to see it on video demand, so far, not bad. As far as women wrestling goes, just like I've always said, the worst of Shimmer is still usually not bad. Next, we had Kimber Lee, the other half the tag team champions, against Jessica Havoc. And I'm not sure I liked Jessica Havoc's outfit this time, not to be petty, but, she had those rainbow bright, neon colors, far be it for me to criticize such amazing, glow-in-the-dark, rave type colors. Her makeup was just kind of like smeared on, and she doesn't have the usual raccoon eyes she's been having for, her time at TNA as kind of a, neo-Nazi, punk, rock, zombie, whatever she was supposed to be then, which, the Havoc Death Machine. But she's kind of sort of dished that image instead she just, I'm not sure what she looks like, kind of a maniac doll or something, I don't know. But certainly imposing, and she goes against Kimber Lee. And of course, Kimber Lee is a heel, little bully, cheater, airhead, stuck up, whatever you want to call her. But Jessica Havoc has always been a bully. And of course, when she was fighting against, Portia Perez, the fans were cheering for her. She was, but now it seems Jessica Havoc is turning heel again because, in this match, which wasn't the greatest, I felt like, I didn't feel like I saw the real power of Jessica Havoc. She was not the bumbling oaf goof that sometimes happens to these giant wrestlers, but she just didn't seem as scary and powerful as maybe she could have seemed. Maybe some of it was the outfit. Maybe they're softening her image on purpose. But it was kind of ambiguous the way things were going because I found myself rooting for Kimber Lee instead of for Jessica Havoc, which is kind of the reverse of what it should have been, I suppose. By the end of the match, there was this little girl in the audience, and Jessica Havoc just kind of out of the blue as she was coming out because she was mad because she lost, because of course there was interference, of course. Kimber Lee, and she was, she got a surprise roll-up pin, the classic, schoolboy, schoolgirl, whatever you want to call it, roll-up pin. Distraction roll-up, as Solo Monster would call it. When a partner came to the ring and distracted Jessica Havoc, so Cherry Bomb, makes faces and gets her attention diverted. Classic wrestling spot. So anyway, of course, it was a bad finish in that sense. But Jessica Havoc comes out and she has her little plastic baseball bat. I guess they gave her a new one from the old one broke. And she kind of hit the barricade and she kind of yelled at the little girl. And then she kind of stuck her face in the camera and said, I hate kids. And she walked out. I mean, it didn't seem super scary, but it was just sort of oh, okay, so you're a bad guy now? And the little girl was just kind of huh? She didn't really react. I think she liked Jessica Havoc. She was huh? So, I mean, we don't know who that little girl was. It could have been, her niece or something. But anyway, in any case, Jessica Havoc is bad now. But she was always bad. So that's fine. I think she works well as a bad person. Strange to root for the bullies. It really is. So moving on, we have Veda Scott against Heidi Lovelace. And so